is a sound you've never heard, but it has shaped every thought you've ever had. It's not music. It's not the voice in your head. It's not even your breath. It's something deeper, buried beneath all language, beneath all reason, beneath all conscious thought. Ancient mystics described it without words, calling it the soundless tone, the hidden pulse, or simply the current. And if you've ever sat in silence and felt your mind begin to hum for no reason, you've already brushed up against it. This is not a metaphor. Modern science dismisses what it can't measure. But before the age of machines, there were those who listened, not with ears, but with presence. Hermetics, Vedic sages, even remote tribal shamans, they all spoke of a frequency not found on the physical scale, yet capable of triggering massive internal shifts. A vibration that doesn't come from outside, but is awakened from within. They said it could open gateways in the mind, that it could show you truths not accessible by thought alone. And more than that, they feared it. Why? Because once heard, truly heard, it cannot be forgotten. And once awakened, it changes everything. Your perception, your identity, even your biology. But here's what no one told you. This frequency isn't something you find. It's something that finds you. We were not built to control it. We were designed to respond to it. Just like a tuning fork vibrates when struck by the right tone, your nervous system recognizes and resonates when this frequency is present. And when it does, it begins unlocking gates, pathways you didn't know existed. The ancients warned, these gateways are not just symbolic, they are physiological. Actual neurological circuits lie dormant in the human brain, awaiting activation, not by belief, not by visualization, but by resonance. Have you ever wondered why moments of insight come in silence? Why epiphanies often arrive unannounced, like flashes from nowhere? This isn't randomness, this is alignment. They told you your brain is quiet until you think, but your brain has never been silent. Even in dreamless sleep, there's activity. Even in sensory deprivation, there's rhythm. The mind pulses, softly, invisibly, ceaselessly, and this pulse is not random. It is a pattern, a current, always flowing, always broadcasting. Most of us never notice it because we've been taught to focus outward. But the ancients, they turned inward. And what they found wasn't stillness. It was structure, not chaos, but code. The human brain is not a computer, but it is coded. Waveforms, harmonics, patterns of electricity and consciousness braided together in frequencies modern instruments still barely detect. These are not brainwaves for sleep or focus. These are gateway frequencies, keys essentially, locked behind years of cultural forgetting. You were born with them. Infants can access them. Some animals respond to them. And in deep trauma, altered states, or extreme meditation, people sometimes stumble into them without understanding. What follows is usually labeled psychosis, hallucination, or spiritual crisis. But what if it's none of that? What if it's the brain, startled awake, resonating for the first time? This is where the danger begins, because resonance, once triggered, is not always controllable. It's not a button, it's not a skill, it's a feedback loop between energy, perception, and identity. Imagine you strike a note inside a perfectly tuned instrument, and every string begins to vibrate. But your mind is not a string, it's a labyrinth. And when the vibration moves through it, it doesn't just create sound, it reveals rooms, tunnels, chambers, long sealed off. Suddenly, you feel sensations that don't belong to you. You recall memories that aren't yours. You question time, you question self. And in this moment, the old you begins to dissolve. The ancients called this the initiation of sound, not the pleasant OM of group meditation, but the raw, unfiltered frequency of disintegration. The moment when who you think you are begins to crack, not because of trauma, but because of resonance. This is why it was hidden, because no religion, no system, no state can control a person who has heard the original frequency. It is the anti-indoctrination signal, the undoing of borrowed belief. Most people turn away when it starts. They distract, they medicate, they normalize, because it's easier to be numb than to feel what was always there. But you stayed, and now the gates are trembling, not metaphorically, neurologically. The sound is waking you. The body does not lie. You might rationalize, you might doubt, but your nervous system knows. When the forbidden frequency begins to resonate inside you, it does not ask permission. It ignites. Muscles twitch, skin tightens, the breath becomes uneven. Your spine tingles not from fear, but from recognition. This is the body's version of remembering. Long before we had language, we had vibration. Before stories, symbols, and beneath all belief systems, there was sensation, pure, raw signal. And when that signal returns, unfiltered by dogma or guided practice, it arrives as fire, not metaphorical fire, neurological fire. The brain lights up in areas most people never activate. Your heart rate shifts, your gut contracts, your limbs may even tremble. Why? Because you are not hearing the frequency. You are becoming it. This is what ancient initiates prepared for. The fire wasn't a punishment. It was proof. The vessel, your body, had begun to awaken, to retune, to realign. But alignment is not a comfortable process. It means dissonance must be purged. It means false identities must fall. And here is the brutal truth most spiritual teachings skip. You don't get to keep your current self and receive the frequency. One must burn for the other to emerge. Your habits, your narratives, your convenient lies. They will not survive this sound. They weren't built to. And that's why this path was hidden. Not because it doesn't work, but because it does. And now, as the current moves through you, you feel something impossible to name. Is it panic, release, a memory from before birth? It doesn't matter, because the mind can't contain what the body already knows, and the body remembers everything. Here's the part no one warns you about. This resonance can isolate you. You'll find fewer people who understand. Conversations may feel hollow. Even joy may feel different, more intense, more fleeting, because your perception is shifting, and with it, your relationships to everything familiar. But that isolation is not a prison. It's a chrysalis. You are not breaking down. You are building something ancient. And if you've come this far, it's because some part of you already knew. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe and tap the bell icon so this journey isn't lost in the noise, because what's coming next, most people never get to hear. Truth is dangerous when it liberates. There's a reason this frequency isn't taught in schools, isn't discussed in mainstream neuroscience, isn't whispered in temples or pulpits. It isn't because it's a myth, it's because it's uncontrollable. Control thrives on predictability, on systems, hierarchies, obedience. But this sound, it answers to none of them. It doesn't require your belief. It doesn't wait for permission. And once awakened, it dismantles everything borrowed, everything conditioned, everything false. This frequency grants sovereignty, not just in thought, but in being. And systems, be they religious, educational, political, cannot survive too many sovereign minds. So what did they do? They buried it, not by fire, not by censorship, but by distraction. They flooded your life with noise, notifications, headlines, desires not your own. They taught you to seek silence outside yourself, in vacation retreats and curated playlists, never realizing the real silence is inside. And it's not quiet, it roars. They replaced vibration with consumption. They gave you rituals with no resonance, prayers with no pulse, movements with no memory. Because if you ever truly remembered, everything would change. The ancients knew this, which is why initiation was earned, not marketed. One didn't stumble into resonance. One prepared for it through fasting, solitude, silence, intensity, not to impress the divine, but to withstand it. Because the frequency doesn't elevate, it eradicates. It doesn't improve, it reveals. And what it reveals is not always beautiful. It shows you where you've lied to yourself, where you've settled, where you've conformed out of fear, comfort, or exhaustion. It strips away the masks you forgot you were wearing. But beneath them, if you have the courage to endure the burn, something older than ego begins to stir. Something true. And here's the paradox they never told you. You are not being activated. You are being returned. Returned to a state the world worked very hard to convince you never existed. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to remember what they erased. And now that you've heard the pulse, you can never fully unhear it. That's not a curse. It's a key. They sold you incense, mantras, sound baths. They called it awakening. But what they gave you was a simulation. Modern spirituality is a theater. Well-lit, well-branded, curated for comfort. It soothes, it entertains, it promises without demanding. But resonance, real, ancient, body-shattering resonance, that isn't soothing. It's dismantling. The frequency we speak of cannot be downloaded. It doesn't care about your astrology chart. It isn't impressed by your bookshelf. It moves when you stop performing, when the costumes fall off, when your voice breaks from silence, not chanting. That's why true initiates are rare. Because in today's world, we confuse aesthetics with essence. People wear symbols they don't understand, speak words they've never embodied, seek mystical highs while avoiding the terrifying stillness beneath all sound. But you're not here for aesthetic enlightenment. You're here because something inside you aches, not for peace, but for truth, not for meaning, but for direct experience. And that experience doesn't start in books or circles. It starts in tremors, in long nights, in the strange hum you can't explain, the sensation that the air around you has thickened, that your skin is listening, that your thoughts are no longer your own, but echoes. This is resonance. And when it begins, rituals fail, because ritual without resonance is just choreography. The ancients didn't perform for the divine. They met it, raw, unfiltered, overwhelming. Not in temples, but in caves. Not in comfort, but in collapse. And the sound, it didn't play from speakers. It rose from their bones. Modern teachings are obsessed with light, but they forget that light, without structure, is just noise, just glare, just heat. Structure comes from resonance, and resonance doesn't flatter. It demands that you release your need to understand everything, that you surrender your need to name, frame, and claim every sensation. Because the frequency doesn't care what you believe. It doesn't come to teach you, it comes to undo you. And only after the undoing can something real begin. This is not about better meditation. This is about being meditated by something older, purer, and infinitely less polite. That's the part they won't sell you, because it can't be bought. You were never meant to be a passive observer. Your body is not simply flesh and bone. It is a finely calibrated antenna, built not just to survive, but to sense. Every cell, every nerve, every breath is part of a forgotten architecture designed to detect, absorb, and resonate with hidden frequencies beyond the visible world. This isn't spiritual metaphor. This is biology. You've felt it. That subtle tingling at the base of your spine when you're near someone intense. The pressure in your skull before a storm. The gut-wrenching jolt when you walk into a room that feels off, even if nothing has happened yet. You call it intuition. We call it reception. Because your nervous system isn't just reactive, it's perceptive. And when exposed to the forbidden frequency, it does something radical. It shifts out of protection mode and into transmission mode. It stops defending and starts remembering. The ancient current doesn't speak in words, it speaks in pulses. And when your body is quiet enough, emptied enough, brave enough, it begins to respond. You may feel heat, spirals, pressure, rhythm. It might feel like insanity, but it's not. It's coherence. This coherence is not peace, it's precision, alignment, activation. The ancients knew this. That's why they purified before ritual, not for morality, but for clarity, to become clean vessels for reception, because distortion, whether from chemicals, cluttered thought, or emotional debris, blocks signal. So ask yourself, what is numbing your reception? Is it your phone, your diet, your need to be liked, your need to understand? Every act of surrender is a step closer to tuning, and once tuned, just once, you realize you've been deaf your entire life, not because you lacked ability, because you were never taught how to listen not with ears, but with fascia, with breath, with attention so sharp it cuts through thought. The current has always been here. It never left. You did. But if you're still here, if you've followed this far, it means something inside you has stayed open, willing, restless. You are beginning to re-enter the field, and the field is responding.
This is the part no one prepares you for. Not the gurus, not the influencers, not the guides with tidy answers and polished mantras. Because this isn't marketable. It can't be wrapped in inspiration or framed in positivity. Collapse. Collapse is the real initiation. Not the kind you choose, but the one that chooses you. When the frequency finally breaks through every defense you've built, it doesn't politely knock. It shatters, it scrapes, it rips. The narratives, the identities, the beliefs you've held onto like oxygen suddenly feel alien, fragile, meaningless, and you're left with silence. But not the peaceful kind, the kind that roars, the kind that reminds you everything you thought you were was never you. The body trembles, old memories surge, emotions arise without context. People leave, jobs dissolve, desires vanish. And in the void that follows, the question emerges. Who am I if I'm no longer who I was? There is no instant answer, because collapse is not a crisis. It is a calibration. The system is not breaking, it is shedding. The noise is not madness, it is memory, ancient, collective, somatic, being cleared to make space. You are not malfunctioning, you are aligning. This is what the ancients revered as death before rebirth, ego death, identity purge, not as tragedy, but as necessity, because what waits on the other side of collapse is not comfort, it's clarity. Clarity so raw, so undeniable, it frightens the part of you still clinging to illusion. But let that part tremble. It was never meant to survive. What emerges in its place is not a better you, it's a real one. A version not sculpted by culture, shame, or strategy, but shaped by frequency, pulled from source, echoing something primal. And that version, when it speaks, moves, creates, is no longer asking for permission. It remembers. Remembering is painful, but forgetting is the true tragedy. And so you sit, still, breathless, not empty, but ready.
There comes a point where the search ends, not because you found all the answers, but because you finally stop asking the wrong questions. You realize the path was never leading to something. It was leading back to a moment before the noise, before the programming, before the forgetting. And in that stillness, what do you hear? Not angels, not prophecies, not even some divine voice from above. You hear yourself. Not the self you show the world, not the one stitched together by memories and masks, but the hum beneath it all, the pulse that has been echoing since before you had a name. This is the final resonance, and it doesn't come from outside. It's not in the sound bowls or the sacred texts or the frequencies sold in binary beats. It's in your bones. It's in the rhythm of your breath when you stop trying to control it. It's in the ache behind your eyes when a truth hits too hard. It's in the silence that speaks louder than words. And here's the final truth, what they never told you. You are the frequency. The ancient current you sought. It was waiting inside you, hidden behind every distraction you thought was life. You were not meant to find it. You were meant to remember it. This is why it was forbidden, because a person who remembers cannot be programmed. A person who resonates cannot be ruled. A person who is the frequency becomes the disruption. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle rebellion growing inside, that refusal to play a part that no longer fits. That rising energy not powered by rage, but by remembrance. That's not rebellion, that's resonance. And now that you've heard it, the only question that matters is this: what will you let it destroy so that what's real can remain? Let that question haunt you. Let it breathe inside your next silence. Let it echo through every fake smile, every empty conversation, every moment that no longer feels aligned. And when the noise of the world tries to drown it out, come back here. Because this channel isn't entertainment, it's resonance. And now that you've begun to feel it, truly feel it, there's no going back. Now ask yourself and leave your answer in the comments. When was the last time you heard something that made everything else go quiet?